Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is TVP World. You're watching World News. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and these are the latest headlines. The European Commission says that there's no objective reason to delay Ukraine's path to membership. The comment is seen as a direct response to Hungary's Viktor Orban, who has voiced strong opposition to Ukraine joining the bloc. Our correspondent, Alex Kadir, is in Brussels. Alex, so how did the Commission address Orban's reservations?
Well, Ben, this fight has been a long time coming. We knew that Viktor Orban was going to position himself as a Ukraine skeptic when it comes to membership, because he has positioned himself in that way effectively since the early months of Russia's full-scale invasion. He has continued to buy Russian gas. He has delayed European sanctions. He has proven himself or shown himself to be one of the more Kremlin-friendly leaders in the European Union. And of course, this consultation that he announced a few days ago, where he said that 95% of almost the 2.3 million people who participated in a recent national consultation opposed Ukraine's membership of the EU. The response from Brussels is very clear. It is not a political decision. It is not a question of mood. There is a process. There is a system which is meritocratic. The Commission itself assesses whether or not Ukraine meets the reforms, the criteria that is required to join the next phase of the negotiations, and then they can move forward. Now, the first cluster of negotiations, as it's known in Brussels speak, will look at rule of law, human rights reforms, democracy, fundamental, crucial ways in which a country and society operate to make them compatible with the European Union. The European Commission says Ukraine has made giant leaps when it comes to those reforms, especially considering they're doing so in a time of war. So there is, of course, this rumbling fight between Viktor Orban and Brussels on Ukrainian membership of the EU. The Commission wants to open the negotiations. Hungary, for now, saying it will block that. Realistically, of course, the threat of Ukraine, as it's perceived in Hungary, joining the EU anytime soon, it seems unlikely. Ben, this process could take up to 10 years.
All right. So in the meantime, thank you so much for your update. Appreciate it. 3 people were killed and 35 injured in a Ukrainian drone strike on a military-linked factory in the Russian city of ee-ZHEV-SK, east of Moscow. Local officials did not name the exact site, but independent reports suggest it was a key facility producing drones and air defense systems. The site reportedly triggered a fire, and in the footage we're showing, shared by eyewitnesses online, an explosion and a plume of smoke can be seen rising from the area. The location was verified through satellite imagery and recognizable landmarks. Officials from both Russia and Ukraine has confirmed the timing of the attack. Azerbaijani police have released video showing 2 groups of detained Russian nationals, some with visible injuries. They are suspected of drug trafficking from Iran, online scams, and cyber fraud. Azerbaijani's prosecutor general has also opened a criminal case into the alleged killing of 2 Azerbaijani citizens by Russian law enforcement. Experts say the victims died from post-traumatic shock caused by physical abuse. The case has sharply escalated tensions between Baku and Moscow. Azerbaijan has issued a formal protest and canceled several joint events with Russia. In a further move, the Interior Ministry raided the Baku office of the Russian news outlet Sputnik Azerbaijan, detaining 7 editorial staff, including the search. In an exclusive interview with TVP World, Hasib Hussein, director at the Center for Analysis of International Relations, spoke about the fallout from recent events in the Russian city of Yekaterinburg, where Azerbaijani citizens were reportedly subjected to extrajudicial killings and torture. He said the incident has pushed Russia-Azerbaijan relations to their lowest point since the collapse of the Soviet Union.
And the latest events in Yekaterinburg, city of Russia, was shocking to the Azerbaijani society. On 27th of June, people were shocked that Russian special forces raided ethnic Azerbaijanis, their apartments, killed ethnic Azerbaijani people extrajudicially, and also tortured them. I mean, yesterday, the dead bodies of the victims were brought to Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan institutions re-examined them, and they found out that these 2 people were subjected to torture, Many signs of torture were found out in their dead bodies. And so it brought the relations to the lowest level in the post-Soviet era, I would say. And at the moment, it is really unpredictable what will come next, because we never had this situation in Russia-Azerbaijan relations. And therefore, the present situation is rather unpredictable for all of us.
Moving on to Poland, the Polish Supreme Court is expected to confirm the result of the presidential election won by opposition-backed conservative Karol Nawrocki. But the decision is sparking heated debate as members of the ruling coalition cite thousands of electoral protests filed after the vote. Our reporter Hasib Hussein has more.
I'm standing in front of the Polish Supreme Court, as this is the day when the court officially announces and confirms the result of the Polish presidential election, the election which took place in June and was won by Karol Nawrocki, the historian backed by the right-wing opposition party Law and Justice. Now, there are several controversies surrounding this announcement. Let's start with the fact that the result of the election was very close. A little more than 50% of the vote went to Karol Nawrocki, meaning that barely 400,000 votes separated him from the candidate of the ruling coalition, Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski. Such a thin margin meant that any electoral protest needed to be carefully investigated, and this is done by the Polish Supreme Court. Now, there have been more than 50,000 of electoral protests filed by voters, meaning that they said that perhaps their votes went, for example, to the other candidate, not the one that they wanted to vote for. All these protests need to be investigated by the court, but there are also doubts and concerns surrounding the court itself. Years ago, when the Law and Justice Party, the right-wing party, which backed Karol Nawrocki, when it was in power, it changed the way that the justices of the court were chosen, putting into doubt the independence of the Polish Supreme Court. These doubts also come from various European courts, like the European Court of Justice, which basically doesn't recognize the court and its verdict. Now, these doubts were raised here by the Minister of Justice, Adam Bodnar, and the Attorney General, who clashed here with justices of the Polish Supreme Court during the proceedings. Now, the justices of the Polish Supreme Court said that most of the 50,000 electoral protests were void and that only 21 had some valid concerns, that the votes were miscounted. And the Polish Supreme Court has said that this won't in any way influence the result of the election. So it is very unlikely that we are in for any recount of the vote, and it is very unlikely that the result of the vote would change. This doesn't mean, however, that the emotions are not running high. There have been dozens of protesters here from both the supporters of Karol Nawrocki and the right-wing opposition and the supporters of the ruling coalition in Poland, the center-liberal ruling coalition, who stood here with flags, with banners, saying that either the vote should be recounted or that the vote is valid. The emotions are still running high, even though the elections are far behind us. But for now, it seems that nothing is likely to change and that Karol Nawrocki will be the next president of Poland in August. From Warsaw, from in front of the Polish Supreme Court, my name is Kazimierz Łysiak, TVP World.
In response to the situation along the Polish-German border and disputes over the origins of illegal migrants, Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced Tuesday that Poland will reintroduce temporary controls on its border with Germany and Lithuania. The reinforced patrols are meant to monitor not only illegal migrants, but also members of the so-called border defense movement. The government is also reacting to recent citizen detentions of migrants by nationalist activist Robert Bąkiewicz, and Tusk said such actions are illegal, aggressive, and interfere with the work of official border services. Temporary checks will begin on Monday, July 7th, with more border guards, police, and soldiers deployed to affected areas. And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. But for more news, update, and commentary, Please stay tuned to TVP World.